What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drewbie Wilson, with more than 2 decades in sales. I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community, because this is literally the best industry of all time. No matter your background, no matter your history, you can make a career in sales and build an amazing life. Today's guest, no stranger to that journey. I'm excited to have him on. He's my new friend, Mr. Kevin Palmieri. How you doing today, brother?
Drewbie, I'm living the dream. I appreciate you having me on. You and I connected behind the scenes. It was wonderful. So again, my goal is to match your freaking energy today. If I can do that, it will be a moral victory, my friend.
I have no doubt you're going to do that. I know before we got into this call, we got some energy going, but I want to jump right into this, man. You know the game. Tell me a wild sales story. What you got for us?
Yeah, so this was 2019, and I had a mentor who came to me and said, Kev, you're 300 episodes into the podcast. I have somebody who wants help with their podcast. I think you should help them. And I'm thinking, number one, I don't know how I'm going to help them. And number two, I don't know what the process of even getting a client really is. So let's see how this goes. And for context, I literally was unable to afford Christmas presents that December because I was so broke as a new entrepreneur trying to figure out this whole game. So I get the guy's number. I call him up. Hey, I'm interested in this. Sure, I'll wing it and figure out how to do it. Just meet me at my office. Let's have a conversation. So I proceed to go to this financial firm, which he was the CEO of. I put on my finest khaki pants and oversized button-down shirt that most likely didn't fit. And I met him. He comes down in his tux, his suit, looking real good, looking fly. And we had a conversation about what it would look like. And I left that day without a deal. And I remember thinking, is this how it's supposed to work? I thought we were going to do this. I thought for sure this was aligned. I thought it was going to work. So he texts me later that week and says, hey, come back. Let's have another conversation. I want to get more clarity. All right, here we go. This is awesome. Amazing. So I drive back. I put on my second finest khakis and my second finest oversized button up. And I drive back and we have the same meeting, but a little bit more personal. And same thought. I'm going to leave here. I'm going to have a client and this thing's going to be real. Nothing's happening. So I go home, tuck my tail between my legs, convinced it's not going to work. He texts me again later that week. I go back one more time and he invites me up into his office. And I'm thinking, this is good. This is good stuff. So we had a conversation. He said, how much is it for what I'm looking for? I gave him the price and he said, cash, check, Venmo, credit card. How do you want it? And I got in the elevator to leave and I was taking the elevator down and I texted my now wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, with tears, literal tears in my eyes. And I said, babe, we did it. Because that was the first time I had ever had a sale of thousands of dollars. I'd never experienced that before. I didn't believe I could do it. And that was life-changing money for me at that point. So that is probably my favorite because it's closest to the heart. And that's kind of how this whole thing started.
Man, that's so cool, Kevin. And I relate so deeply to that, not having money for Christmas, because I remember very, very vividly a similar story, getting let go 2 weeks before Christmas and being like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I would be curious to know, though, did he ever mention why he waited till the third meeting or any he seemed like it must have been interested. Did he give you any reason as to why he waited till that third meeting?
No, he never told me. And him and I became he did 300 and some odd episodes with us. So we had worked together for years and years. I think that was just his process. I think he was someone who really wanted to vet me and make sure I was a good human being. Because right after he signed up with us, he invited me to his house to help him set up his equipment. And he left me there with his dog. When he went, he had to go to a meeting. He's like, are you cool to lock up? And I was like, if you want to leave me here, yeah. So I think he was probably just vetting opportunities and options. And he wanted to make sure that was the most aligned one. Because it wasn't a money thing. I think it was just he didn't know what to expect. And he probably wanted to get more clarity and certainty.
That's so awesome for you to kind of elaborate on that, because as a sales show, one of the things that I've always found interesting is the different perspectives of, hey, you got a hard close on the first meeting. If you don't get the one call close, you're screwing up. And then, for me personally, I'm not that guy. I don't like being hard closed, pressure sold on things. It actually turns me off more than it helps. Yeah. So I'd be curious, for you and your sales process, what does that look like? Do you have a secret sales superpower or a way that you like to approach it now that you've been in the game a while?
For me, I am a proponent of giving away as much value as humanly possible with the understanding that eventually, if somebody is going to work with somebody in your niche, it's probably going to end up being you. So I was on a sales call the other day. We got to the end and the person said, "All right, what's your pitch?" And I said, I don't have one. It was intended on being a free value add call. Mm-hmm. And there is no pitch. I'm not going to talk to you about numbers. I'm not going to talk to you about anything. A lot of times, Drewbie, people say, well, what does it take to work with you? And I think it's just because they're expecting that, oh, when's the other shoe going to drop? When's the other shoe going to drop? So if I have a superpower, I think one, it's just I'm very relatable when it comes to talking to potential customers and clients. I genuinely want what's best for them, regardless of whether they work with us or not, even if it means not working with us. And I'm very consistently trying to add value into their lives long before they become clients. And I think that's a really good suggestion of what it would look like to actually work together. If I give them a good understanding of this is just who I am, imagine how much value you're going to get behind the scenes when I'm doing this for you and you're just a potential client or becoming an acquaintance or whatever. So I would say that's probably the superpower if there was one.
I want to know what pushed you into having that mindset. Because like for me personally, I can remember that moment very vividly, right? I was learning marketing and I had a guy that was a developer for the software that saw me asking questions in the group. And he's like, listen, I'll teach you what you want to know if you're willing to go and teach them. And I said, well, why would I do that? I need to know it so that I can win. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And he said, listen, bro, you can learn this all on YouTube too, but I'll shortcut it for you if you're willing to help them. And so it was like this huge awakening. What was that for you? How did you transition into that mindset of like, give it all away, knowing they'll come and find you?
My business partner had a lot to do with that because he's a visionary. So everything we're doing today is for 15 years down the road. And he's always just been, just give it away, add more value. That was a really big piece. And probably similar to you, I've been hard sold so many times and I've never once followed through and purchased. But the people who just add value into my lives, especially mentors, you will hear me talk about them a ton. And they'll never ask me to talk about them, but they have just poured more into my life than anybody else. And I'm naturally going to send out an energetic referral anytime I have the opportunity. So I've always tried to think to myself, if I was on the other end, how would I like to be talked to? And if I can do that, I believe I'll be really good at sales because I think a lot of people are emotionally driven. I think a lot of sales trainers, Drewbie, are very logically driven. They take chances, they take shots, they want straightforward answers, they want things done quickly. I think the majority of human beings are emotionally driven, and they require connection as much as they require anything else. And I'm an emotionally driven human, so that just is the way I kind of wanted to do it.
Oh, yeah, we're going deep now, Kevin. I'm loving this, brother. And I know we could probably talk about this stuff for hours. And, you know, the beautiful thing that I love about meeting other professionals and really why I started this show and why I encourage so many people to like share it, because, again, there's so many different perspectives about what it means to be successful. And when you start leaning in on, you know, successful in the sales industry, I've always looked at it as your success is going to be based on what your clients are saying about you, because you can have all the best word tracks and all the scripts and every objection and rebuttal. They could be completely dialed into the T. But if people aren't satisfied at the end of that conversation, if they don't walk away feeling like this guy is someone that I would trust my granny with, I'll leave them in my home with my dog, keys, whatever, that to me is success. I think that is the ultimate testimony, is when someone will tell someone else about you and your product or service. That is winning. Yeah. So for you, you mentioned referrals, and I love that because it's a great segue into, for you and for the listener specifically, I think one of the hardest things for people to do is ask for referrals. It's kind of crazy, but I find that when I'm working with clients, that's one of the hardest things for them to do. How have you worked that into your process within, you know, you and your business to ask for those referrals?
I give a commission. I give a referral bonus. For me, it's always, I'd rather get 75% of something than 100% of nothing. So I'll literally just say to my clients when we onboard them, hey, if you know anybody who's interested in blank, 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 I'm happy to give you a percentage back. that's always kind of worked really well for us because I think people they want to be inspired by money. Most people are inspired by money. One of the best sales books I've ever read, it wasn't a book, it was a training by Phil M. Jones. I don't know if you know Phil M. Jones.
No, but I'm writing it down because I got to know now.
We interviewed him a couple times back in the day, and he is one of the best, most aligned sales trainers I've ever had the opportunity to speak with. But he says when something goes really well, reach out to the client. When they give you a compliment, hey, this onboarding process was so very easy. I didn't think it would be this easy. Drewbie, thank you so very much for that. We worked really, really diligently on making sure that it's as effective as possible. Do you know anybody in your network that might be looking for a similar experience to you? Take the compliment and then use the compliment as potential momentum. So that's something that I've done too. Anytime I get a compliment, are there anybody else in your life that might also like the compliment that you just gave us? That's another way that we've been able to do it.
That's so perfectly worded, and that transition is great because it's, hey, I'm not trying to sell someone else. I'm trying to serve them. I'm trying to help them. And leaning in on that can make such a massive difference. And I think it really just leads into that next conversation. And so one thing that I want to share this with you because you're a fellow sales professional.
Please.
So this has been something that was a big game changer for me. Have you ever asked someone that you don't do business with for a referral?
Today. Yes. Today.
Come on, tell me about it. Yeah, come on, tell me about that story if you don't mind sharing.
It all goes back to kind of the same thing. I was on a podcast with someone. I was a guest, and they emailed me and said, hey, Kev, you've been doing this a lot longer. Can I send you kind of like my business model and the way I want to get it set up? And are you open to giving me feedback? And I said, yeah, send me. And they sent me it was long. It was a long email with a lot of stuff. So I took some time getting back to it, and we had a little bit of a conversation going. And then today I was like, oh, I haven't talked to Chris in a long time. He's on my whiteboard of names. I'm going to reach out to Chris. And I just reached out and said, hey, just wanted to check in. How is everything that you and I discussed? Is that something that you've been following through on? Is there any more value I can add? And at the bottom, I put also, I know you probably know a lot of podcasters because you're in the industry, and I'm trying to help as many podcasters as possible. This is kind of an idea of what we do. Is there anybody in your network that you might believe would find value in it? And I haven't got a response yet because I just sent it a couple hours ago. But yeah, it was very much that thought process of I've already added value into this person's life. This is not an unrealistic ask. I'm not going to break rapport by sending this message. It's not cold. It doesn't seem like I'm just asking for something without giving. I'm always thinking of that. Where are we in terms of the energetic giving? Have I given enough where I might be able to ask for something? If not, that's when at least I've seen, that's when you break rapport.
This is why I love working with professionals, Kevin, because you nailed it, brother. And it's so fun to have that higher level conversation with someone who gets it. Yeah. And what I would love to do is circle back to 2019, early Kev, just making that first sale, like mind shift blown. Because what I know about sales is it's an ever revolving industry, right? Someone new is going to jump in today. Someone that's been here for 50 years is finally making the decision, like, I got to stop beating my head against the wall, dude. Like, I got to do something different. So let's go back to 2019. You decide, hey, I'm going to get into sales. Like, I closed my first deal. What do you do next?
You know what I did next? I messed up badly. Yeah. We had another opportunity with another mentor, and I was arrogant. I was a little bit arrogant because I had just closed the deal, and I had a very similar conversation, and this guy had a boatload of money. We're talking net worth, 30, 40, $50 million range. He's very successful. We had a call. I told him what it would cost, and he said, well, instead of that, what if I pay $500 less a month, but I give you a shout out on the podcast? I will literally sponsor the podcast, and I'll put your name in there. And I was like, no, man, if this is the price, and it's kind of a take it or leave it situation. And he left it. And I haven't heard from him since. And that was shortly after. That was probably like 6 months after. So what I did was I made a giant mistake by thinking every person thinks the same, acts the same, has the same relationship with money, has the same choice dynamic. That humbled me to understand that just because somebody has more money does not mean they want to spend more money. And really, yeah, it humbled me. It helped me stay in the middle of understanding that, look, sometimes it's going to be a conversation, and I do believe there is a give and take, and sometimes there's going to be movement on the pricing that I didn't originally think.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Of
That's
course.
one of those things that, like, I think it does happen to a lot of young professionals. We get in and we don't know what we don't know, so we're just moving, grooving, taking care of it, like whatever we got to do, everything. But those moments, they're so valuable because you don't know what you don't know. And until you're in the right room with the right people, having the right conversation, it's hard for the right things to happen. And I love that you recognize, and I'm sure you've played that conversation in your head a bajillion times of like, had I $500, bro, he was going to shout me out. Like, I can only imagine the sleepless nights that you went through after that. And that's the thing, is you go through those seasons, you go through those moments, and you get a choice. You can look at it as a loss, or you can take it as a lesson. And Kevin, I love how you look at that and go, that's a big lesson for me to do a better job of building rapport, asking questions, understanding people's relationship with money. That's a huge tip that I want to make sure people go back and hear. What's the person's relationship with money? Because everyone's is different, right? So, I mean, that's a huge perspective difference.
Yeah.
But the nuance of it is not lost on me, Kevin, and I hope the listener doesn't lose that either, because that could be the difference in how many deals you're closing. Is just how is their relationship with money different than yours? A lot of new sales professionals will come in and sell out of their own pocket, and they're afraid to ask for what they're worth. I don't know. I can't pay $2,500. So like, I'll just charge them 500. Cause like that makes sense. Right. Like, and if I get 500, I'll be okay. So in your journey, how did you step into being comfortable saying, okay, now I've kind of learned this lesson. I've been humbled a little bit. What sort of changes did you put into your process to make sure that, you don't make that same mistake again?
I tried to use that as an opportunity to make sure I was doing way more research and trying to understand different demographics. The biggest blind spot I had was, this person's a multimillionaire. What's $500 a month? Well, they didn't become a multimillionaire by saying, well, what's $500 a month? That's not how you get there. Didn't know that. So I started to lean more and more into what is the level of preparation I can do before I talk to someone, because I want to make sure I can guide the conversation to what is best for them based on what I know. That was a really big piece. And then the other thing, the big mistake I made there was I was so focused on short-term profitability, not long-term potential. We would have made way more than $500 a month if he shouted us out. I just didn't. I was more worried about what was the measurable monetization going into the bank versus what was the opportunity that came with it. And I missed out on a lot more than just money when it came to that. So I was always trying to think of, how many wins is this actually? Is this a client who's going to come and just stay for a month? That's different, right? I'm going to approach that situation differently. Is this someone who has a really big network and they're very open to introducing me to people? Okay, that's something I'm going to look at completely different. Do they want more than one package? That's different. So yeah, that was a big piece of it. And then just also understanding, what did we actually offer? I think in the beginning, it's like, what do you need, Drewbie? Well, I need this, 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 and this. It's like, I mean, I can do landscaping and gutters, and I could probably clean your pool, but that's probably not what you want to plant your flag in. Maybe you want to be the best landscaper, the best gutter installer, cleaner, the best pool cleaner, right? So yeah, getting clear on that in the beginning was a piece of it too.
I love that. And one of the things that I've said multiple times during the show is that's why I love working with a professional, because a professional is going to be very clear about expectations, boundaries. Hey, this is what we do, why we do, how we do. And if you want anything else, I'm not your guy. Here's somebody that you can go talk to. And brother, this has been one of the best shows, just from the standpoint of, you showed up prepared. You have so much wisdom and knowledge. And when it comes to the long-term game, right, the lifetime value of a client, I think not everyone understands that from a podcast standpoint, the marketing value, what that can truly do to influence and build rapport and branding for someone far beyond what they're actually measuring as a metric. And I know that's something for you guys, what you really hone in on, right? If you're going to start a show, you're going to lean in on sharing that journey. There are ways to make sure that you can create sustainability and create something that grows from that. So would you mind telling us a little bit about kind of what you guys do to help podcasters and really diving in on what that next step looks like for someone who's like, hey, I'm a professional, but I don't know how to get my story out there.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. Somebody asked me this the other day. They said, what makes you different? And it was kind of like, they're like, give me your pitch. And I said,
Sure.
again, I don't have one. I don't have a pitch. What I can say is we didn't start as a podcast production company. I am somebody who does like 15 to 20 episodes a week. I am a podcaster. I am in the trenches. I am in the arena. I am testing it out every single day with my show. I have 2 shows. So we are ultimately a production company. So if you're out there and you have a podcast and you need help with audio editing and video editing and show notes and social media content, and you don't want to do all the posting and you want a team in your corner who is doing this because we're able to do it full time and make money doing it, that is what we offer. And then I also coach podcasters on how to grow, scale, monetize, audience clarity, titling episodes, better marketing, all of that stuff. So yeah, we're a one-stop shop for everything podcasting.
And one of the things I always tell my clients when I'm working with them is, writing a book, starting a podcast, these are things that you're doing to set the legacy. One of the most powerful things that ever happened to me, there's 2 parts to this. One, when I decided to start a podcast, my mentor at the time said, hey, bro, I love that. Don't ever quit. If you're going to start, don't quit, because the average podcaster ends after 7 episodes, and you ain't average, and I sure as shit don't want to have to see you end after 7 episodes. And I was like, sir, yes, sir, will do. I'm on it. And so I got to episode like 700, and I was going 5 days a week. This is a grind. I don't know, man. And God bless her, my mother-in-law, she's a wonderful woman, by the way, but she was telling me, she's like, how wonderful is it that you're sharing this podcast and you're putting out all this content, and you're helping all these people with your story, and you have an 8-year-old son, and God forbid, if anything ever happened to you, how awesome is it that he has this whole like library of things and wisdom that he can go and listen to. And Kevin, I promise you, man, it was that day that I was like, damn it, I can never quit podcasts. And now I can never stop creating content, because this is the thing that lives on forever.
100%.
This wisdom, this knowledge. And man, I can't tell you how grateful I am for you to take some time out of your busy schedule to pour into my audience, to share some of your stories and be vulnerable, because that's the thing, man. We all are going through some sort of struggle in life. We all have things we have to learn from. And I just appreciate you making the time to be here and share with our audience, because I know that every story we tell, one person is impacted by it. And that's the thing, that we can make one impact at a time, the world is going to be a better place, brother.
I appreciate you having me on. You're ahead of me in the sales game, so I appreciate you having giving me the opportunity to come on, a small fish in a big lake. I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate the way that you. Real quick, I know we got to go.
You're good.
I do research before I go on podcasts, right? That's kind of how it goes. One of the things that jumped off the page for me was one of the first posts I saw about you was how when you wake up, the first thing that you do, I think, is 3 gratitudes or write down 5 gratitudes or something. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, that's the type of person I want to talk to, even especially if it's on sales, because it wasn't about sales. It was about self-improvement. You want to get really good at sales, get really good at improving yourself, because when you improve yourself, you can help other people improve. And that's really sales in a nutshell. So just mirroring it back to you, I appreciate you. You're wonderful. And now I consider us friends. So I'm very grateful.
That's what I'm talking about, Kevin. All right. So if anybody here today enjoyed what they heard, they got some value out of it, what's the best way for them to come and find you so that they can say, hey, Kevin, thank you so much for sharing what you shared on that episode with Drewbie?
I just give out my email because it's the most direct. So kevin@nextleveluniverse.com. That's probably the best place. If you're a podcaster, I have a podcast called Podcast Growth University, totally free, an episode every week on how to grow, scale, and monetize your podcast. So that might be a good free resource for any podcasters or aspiring ones out there.
Listen, if you've got a story to tell, it's your duty to tell it, y'all. So if you're listening to this show, you are a podcaster, you just don't know it yet. Go check out the Podcast Growth University, listen to a couple episodes, go follow Kevin. The guy's an absolute gem of a human. and he's great at what he does, a fellow professional in the podcast game. So thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. You guys, you know what to do. Subscribe, share the episode, tell someone about it, tag us on social media, let someone know you heard Kevin drop some heaters today, and that's going to help us grow and get in front of more people we can help. Because again, this is the greatest industry on earth. Helps people, any background, any personality type, you can be successful here. And if you have a crazy sales story like my man Kevin, something wholesome, go to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your information. I'd love to have you on the show and share your story. And you guys know what to do from here. Call the damn leads. Crush the damn day. We'll see you next time.